Alright, what's up guys? My name is Zack, and today I am driving a 1993 Pontiac Firebird Trans Am. Up front is a 5.7 liter V8, and down below is a 6-speed manual transmission. Now, I am super excited to be driving this Firebird Trans Am for two reasons. First of all, these are always a hoot. I've done a 94 in the past. I like them a lot. But the second and more main reason is the fact that Pontiac is no more. And we actually get to film here in Pontiac, Illinois, not what the automaker was named after, but we're in Pontiac, Illinois, and so we're gonna be taking a look at what the brand meant and why it is such a sad loss. But if you'd like to submit your own vehicle and have it reviewed here on the channel, you can head on over to my website, zackpradel.com/submit. It's a quick and easy submission form. It takes under a minute to fill out, and I come out to you. And if you'd like to see all my videos weeks or sometimes months in advance, you can head on over to my Patreon for only $5 a month. But let's get back to that 5.7 liter V8. Well, you actually could option this with the 3400 3.4 liter V6. They did make V6 Firebirds. This is not that. This is the good old LT1. We also saw this in like the Buick Roadmaster, and it was kind of the bread and butter engine from GM until the LS took over, and the LS is still kind of reigning king. It makes great power. It is that thumpy V8 that you're looking for. Barely have to give it any gas, just let the clutch out, and this thing goes. And that is a lovely thing to see, feel, and drive. Like I said, paired to its 6-speed manual. Great to see a 6-speed in the early 90s. It wasn't super common to have a 6-speed, so very, very nice to have that extra gear. And last but not least about the drivetrain, of course, the Firebird is rear-wheel drive. How does it feel to drive the Firebird? Well, there's a battle going on between the build quality and the drivetrain. The drivetrain is great. Shifter feels good enough. It's not the best I've ever felt, but definitely good. That engine wants to go. It has that very confident power. But the actual chassis of the Firebird isn't really that great. This is based off the F-body. You know, they also built a Camaro off this chassis, and it's fine. You know, there is a little bit of wiggle going on, but I will say that does give this car a little bit of character. It's like your uncle who only smokes Winston's. You could smell him coming from a mile away, and as you grow up, the smell of Winston's starts to become this almost aromatherapy. Well, that's kind of how I feel about this. The oddities and crinkles and pops from the body are actually kind of reassuring. It's nice to hear all of these GM creaks and squeaks because I know I'm home, and I'm home here in the Firebird. But other than that, visibility is fine, throttle response is good, suspension is cushy enough. You could daily drive one of these. I don't know if I'd recommend it, but you certainly could, and that's a very, very nice place to be in for a vehicle like this, but we'll talk a lot about that with the final thoughts. All right, a little bit of second gear here. It's so healthy. Oh man, it's like a thoroughbred. When you tell it to go, it goes. When you tell it to munch grass, it munches grass. Oh man, this is like blowing the dust off a Sega Genesis and reliving your childhood. This is what it's all about, baby. This is what it's all about. With that stuff out of the way, let's talk about the interior. Well, in front of me, I have 6 gauges. Off to the left, we have the coolant temperature and oil pressure. Up in the center, we have tachometer and speedometer. Off to the bottom right, we have our voltmeter and our fuel. John Davis would be proud of the voltmeter. On the steering wheel, we actually have AM and FM settings as well as seek. And off to the right, we have volume and power. GM was really starting to experiment with steering wheel buttons in this era. We saw it a lot in the Pontiac Grand Prix and things of that nature. So very cool to see that sort of emerging technology here in the 93 Firebird. Off to the left, we do have a climate control vent, our headlight switch and fog light switch. And moving out of the door, we have lock and unlock, power mirrors, and power windows. Again, this is all pulled directly from GM's parts bin, which gives me a good sense of comfort. Moving into the center, we have 3 symmetrical climate control vents. We have the radio that does have a CD player. Pontiac was very, very early to adapt CD players. Very cool to see that. We have our climate controls, fan speed off to the left, temperature in the center, where to send it off to the right. We have a little cigarette lighter and the shifter. The shifter is very nondescript. If you were an alien that crash landed on Earth and got into a Firebird Trans Am somehow, I'm not sure you would know how to operate it if it weren't for that little badge up at the top, and even to a foreign entity, maybe that badge doesn't help. We do have our ashtray and cup holders, so we will do a big friggin' bottle test here in the 93 Firebird Trans Am, and it fails. We all expected it to, but you still gotta test the test. Then we do get a center console and the seats. The seats are very, very comfortable. GM wrote the book on comfort in the late 80s and early 90s. Every single one of their vehicles had fantastically engineered comfortable seats, and that is no different here for the Firebird. I absolutely adore these, especially as a bigger guy. I don't always fit into vehicles like this, but I fit so soundly in the Firebird. I am really enjoying my time here with it. And that's all thanks to the seats, but also the LT1, but for this part of the video, we'll blame that on the seats. However, to my dismay, we do have back seats. So let's go do a backseat review. Now, if you're wondering, Zach, why would you do this to yourself and squeeze yourself into a place that you know you're not gonna fit? And if you are wondering that question, just know that I have the same one. I don't know why I do this to myself, but I'm going to do it. Put your left foot in, and then you sit down. As expected, this back seat's not good. It's just not, you know, you could see over there, not a lot of space. If you have little kids, the owner bought this new and essentially raised his kids in the back seat of this. Perfect for that. Works, you know, when they're younger, it's fine. When you're a 28-year-old automotive YouTuber, you start to fit a little bit less good in the back. So I don't think these seats were really intended for me. They're very much if you need them seats. Honestly, probably 9 times out of 10, just throw a backpack back here, put some groceries back there, call it a day. Or if you have younger kids, it'll work. There are seat belts, but that's pretty much it. So we're in the back of the Firebird, taking it easy here today. So let's take a quick look at the trunk and cargo space. So if you're familiar with this era of GM, we haven't done one on the channel in a little while, but there were 2 keys. So square key for the ignition, round key for the trunk. Now, I've been told in many a video to not lift up on the spoiler because sometimes they come flying off. So here we go. This is the rear cargo space of the Firebird. You can lift this up and obviously you get even more space. That is the original owner. Here is one of my favorite things to find in cars. This is the original window sticker, $22,586 back in 1993. What an amazing deal. So cool to see that. Absolutely love that, but you do get a fair amount of space. There's a big hump that is kind of useless back here, but that is where the fuel tank goes, and so there you go. That is the rear cargo space of a 93 Firebird Trans Am, if you've ever been curious. Now we gotta talk about the looks, and I could give or take the looks. I honestly like the facelifted version of the Firebird a little bit better. The bigger headlights, I'm not actually a fan of the pop-ups in this specific case. I love pop-up headlights in most scenarios, but I think the sealed beams actually looked better that came later on. But it's red, it's a Firebird, and that's all we really need to worry about. With all of that being said, let's get on to my final thoughts. What do I think driving the Firebird Trans Am from 1993? Well, as I mentioned, the only real downside of this vehicle is the squeaks and rattles that come from the interior. And this is a 45,000 mile, very, very well kept example. And it still has the typical GM shoddiness on the interior. But that's honestly the only downside. The transmission is good, the engine is wonderful, it looks good, and it's fun to drive. And that's the important parts, right? That's all you need to worry about. So I like that for sure. But let's talk about Pontiac. Let's talk about the Firebird. Let's talk about the more grand scheme of what this car was, what this car meant, and what Pontiac was as a whole. Again, I had the incredible privilege of filming this car in Pontiac, Illinois. It was very, very fitting. Pontiac, Illinois is a small town. Not a whole lot going on during the weekdays and even really on the weekends. But it's fun and it has spirit, and that's what the Pontiac Automobile Company had. I truly believe Pontiac was the last fun car company to to come out of America. Now, we still get fun cars here in America. Ford makes fun cars, but they're really here to sell us Focuses and Fiestas. Technically not even those anymore. They're here to sell us Mavericks and Escapes. They're not a fun company. Dodge is kind of a fun company, but it's up for debate these days, and even if they are a fun company, they're not a very successful one. Pontiac did something different. You felt your pulse in your neck when you drove a Pontiac, and almost all of their products before their final decade were fun or interesting, or at least had fun and interesting trim levels. And I think it's severely underestimated how important it is to have a fun car, because emotions are contagious. Whether you like it or not, they're contagious. Have you ever had a significant other or a parent or sibling come home and they're in a bad mood and suddenly you're in a bad mood? Or vice versa. Have you ever met someone that's so full of life, so excited, so happy that you can't do anything else but smile? That's what Pontiac did. Pontiac was this fun-loving company. They added excitement to the regular commute of the world. And you can't help but have it rub off on you. You can't help but smile behind the wheel of a Pontiac. Yeah, the rent is due here in a few days. We just got through tax season that was hell on earth. And full transparency, I did not want to come to work today. I did not want to film today. I have a gout flare-up in my right foot. I don't feel great because I have to take medicine for the gout. I did not sleep well last night, and all of that. It's not a very good day, in my opinion. But because the joy of this car is so contagious, I'm still able to squeak out a smile on what would otherwise be a very bad day. You know, they don't quite make a pill yet that makes you happy. We haven't figured that out technologically. But Pontiac found out a way to do it with a V8 and 4 wheels. And they did a mighty fine job with it. Yes, they did. I'm smiling, and I honestly, in the morning, I did not think that was possible on a day like today, so I'll take that to the bank. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Huge thank you to Clay and Rob for letting me borrow not only their Firebird, but I also filmed their C4 Grand Sport, their C7 Stingray, and their C8 Z06. So, very, very fun-loving GM day. Clay and Rob were absolutely wonderful to work with. So down to earth, so friendly, and they gave me free reign over their collection, having just met me. So I really, really appreciate the trust that they have in me to watch over their cars for the last hour or so. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Don't forget to rate the video, comment on the video, and subscribe if you really liked it. Take care, guys.